Hello there, and welcome to Thank the Maker, a podcast about heroes, princesses, scoundrels, hokey religions, ancient weapons, and all things Star Wars. I'm Adam Russell.
Hey, I'm Nick Gambarian.
And I am Mike Forster, and I have survived my weekend with our dear friend Justin Sonfield, and I've got a story to tell because I feel like Kymar. Now, when people are like, how'd you get those scars? I'm like, I got a story. We can get into that, but hey, guys, it's great to see you. I miss you. I miss you terrible.
It's good to see you. It's good to see your face, not in a picture from the hospital, but your actual normal face.
Is that the story you were going to tell?
Oh, dude. Lightsaber slash. That's straight road rash, isn't it?
It's straight road rash, and I have some on my shoulder, too, and yeah, I'm, you know.
This is what happens when you try to have fun, Mike.
As you hit the pavement, did you scream, now this is pod racing?
I don't remember what I said, but I don't think it was that.
This is expensive.
I think
That's what
I do think it was called the ambulance, but I wish I would have said that. Retrospectively, looking back on it, I probably should have said, no, this is pod racing.
Now this is a medical emergency.
That's right, exactly. Call EMS. It's working. They're working. So I was visiting our dear friends at Roosevelt's last week. And I also hung out with our other dear friend, Justin and Naomi Sonfield. And we had a great time. And I went to hang with the Roosevelt's crew. And on the way back in New Jersey, which generally has a very good bike lane, Google Maps sent me on a different direction that I hadn't been. I hit one of those temporary speed bumps, those like plastic ones, and I was going downhill. And I was on a stand-up scooter. And I launched, and I ended up breaking 7 ribs, and I got 2 staples in my head too. So
staples, Darth Zippy. You didn't tell me about the staples.
Yeah, I got 2 staples. Well, I didn't want to be too dramatic here. So, it was pretty good. Yeah, it's nice. So, and then the problem was I was supposed to fly out like basically the next day. And they were like, you can't fly because you might get some air in your lungs because of all the trauma. So you're going to have to drive back from New Jersey to the Upper Peninsula, to which I then got stuck in a tornado and someone crashed. And so I had to stay on the interstate for 2 hours. And I fell asleep, which is actually nice. Dude. But here I am now with you. Thank the maker. Isn't this great?
Things are great.
I'm on this camera right here. There we go. So yeah, we're good. We're good, dudes.
Listen, I'm glad you're good, and I've fallen on a scooter before, never broken 7 ribs.
Sure,
but I've broken bones, gone to the hospital, done all that kind of stuff, and joked about it.
Sure,
but can I tell you that like the first message being you in the hospital with a neck brace and all this shit is like. Yeah. A hell of a way to start the conversation.
Sure. Which I was like, I had to do this with my mom. I was like, Mom, just letting you know, I'm in New Jersey. It's really fun. It's awesome. Also, I might have broken a bunch of bones, but that's not that important. Here's a picture of me with bandages on in front of the Statue of Liberty. It's glorious. It's amazing. Right? She was like, wait, what? Also, isn't that amazing? Also, what happened? So, everything is fine. I'm on about a 6-week recovery at this point. Which
so mom didn't get the hospital picture?
Mom did not get the hospital picture. No, I spared that one. I spared that one for sure. But the picture that we didn't get was the fact that they had to cut off all my clothes. And I had some blood on them, and they had to put stuff on my chest to make sure I wasn't dying.
Oh my God.
Dying faster, put it that way. And they were like, do you like this shirt? And I was like, honestly, I know who made it, so I can probably just get another one. So cut it off.
Roosevelt is actually having a very sick 4th of July sale right now.
Right.
17.76% off. I could just go get another one.
Exactly. And it's probably one of the biggest sales they do of the year. So if you are checking it out, please do go over there and pick up all this new stuff. And I got to see some of the stuff that's coming out, including some of the stuff that I did, and it's very exciting. So I may have gotten a little bit of brain damage. Most importantly, wear your helmet. If you're going to go out and do anything, you're not getting any younger. Go wear a helmet. When you're going to work and you're driving in your car, wear a helmet. You never know.
Helmet pads. behind
helmet
the wheel.
pads. Right, exactly. I'm not wearing hockey pads. You should be wearing hockey pads.
I should wear a helmet, not to steal your thunder, when I'm driving because someone rear-ended me today when I was leaving the gym.
What?
So that's going to cost me time and money getting that fixed. So
right.
Yeah. Things are good. Things are good.
Everyone's good. And we got a new episode of Star Wars, so actually that is good.
I love Star Wars.
That's great. Before we continue, though, I would like to apologize to you, Mike, for choosing the chat pack card that we did last week for the bonus after show segment for patrons.
I listened to it and I was like, son of a.
I'm very sorry.
Maybe I'll do it as a bonus.
Well, we should do it today again tonight, and Nick and I should be a little more specific because I feel like we were a little too broad and vague. The question is, who do you think has the coolest looking helmet in Star Wars? Who is the question? I answered it more like type of helmet. So I'm going to be more specific.
Answer. I'll stick with my answer. But...
Yeah. And Mike, since you clearly need a helmet, it'll be good for people to hear which one you think has the coolest look.
Right.
So that's the bonus segment for patrons after the show. Go to patreon.com/ThinkTheMakerPod if you want to check that out.
Speaking of cool helmets,
let's talk about Star Wars. Cool Cortosis helmets mentioned directly in this episode of The Acolyte, episode 6, Teach/Corrupt.
Yep.
I thought this was sick.
Speaking of this helmet, the episode was good. Seemed like transitional, setting some stuff up. But did you guys think the helmet was black until this episode?
I thought it was until I saw the Black Series ads.
Exactly. I was going to say, those Black Series ads make it look like really rose gold or something, like bronze. And then in this episode, it was like in between black and the Black Series one. So, interesting.
It's kind of like, I imagine this is like Han's Hoth coat, like color grading and everything.
Sure.
Is going to give you the true, like, in-universe on-screen color, but if you really, or, on-screen color, but then the in-universe version, you got to wear the right color. So,
because everyone knows it's brown, but it's actually blue. But it's actually
everyone
brown.
knows.
But it's actually blue, which is cool. So,
yeah. Cortosis, though, mentioned directly by Chimere. And for anyone, since we haven't been doing the Den of Antiquities, we haven't talked about like the deeper cuts. Cortosis is this material that I think was in Legends first, and then was canonized with a comic.
I think it was Old Republic. I think it was the Old Republic stuff.
Old Republic, and then it was in the was it the Kylo Ren series with the Knights?
Yeah, I mean, if it was in the comic where Kylo meets the Knights of Ren, I don't necessarily remember, but yeah, that was a comic series.
And the idea is that this material is like Beskar, really like one of the few things that can go up against the lightsaber, and it's not as strong as Beskar apparently, but quick contact with a lightsaber blade will short it out. So if you've probably seen, people listening have probably seen like slow motion reels and stuff on Instagram and and TikToks of Chimere headbutting the lightsaber blade to disengage it, and then hitting with his bracer. The bracer, again, we'll talk about this later, talk about Ren versus Sith, theorizing. It's like a gauntlet without a glove is technically what a bracer is. I went and looked this up. Like you would see like an archer on the arm that holds the bow out to protect from the
string whip. The
string whip and the feathers. What do you call the feathers on a
fletching?
Fletching, there you go.
Yeah.
From that's Boy Scout knowledge. Fletching from getting you, from injuring your arm. So it's just like an arm piece. And we'll talk about this later. There's evidence.
Patreon chat exciting. Is saying Cortosis was in Thrawn Alliance, Dr. Aphra, A New
Dr.
Dawn.
Aphra, there we go.
Yeah.
Sick. Yeah, shout out Heather Antos and the folks at Marvel for those great comics.
Nice job.
Let's see. Let's talk about this episode. I mean, one of the first things that jumped out to me was this is not Octo, unfortunately.
I thought it was.
We thought in the trailer, we did a whole, trailer breakdown, thought maybe it was Octo. But this episode, I mean, it not being Octo doesn't matter because it ultimately is just like almost like a, Star Trek Mirror episode version, like dark side version of the, the experience with Rey and Luke on Ahch-To.
Right.
But it's different in a few key ways, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So I loved this episode because it was deep and philosophical despite not being super action-packed. Mike, what did you think?
Yeah, this is, I think the development, as Leslie Headland's now, kind of able to share a little bit more about her process into revealing Kymar as the kind of the twist of the season, which I don't think actually was the twist, but we kind of got that confirmed in this episode. So I think this was a great for people who have been asking for like, where's the Sith episode?
Mm-hmm.
When do we get the Sith perspective? I'm sitting here being like, this is it. Like, this is, different words at different times mean different things.
Mm-hmm.
This was a philosophical approach to what makes, I don't know, I guess what I always love a philosophy discussion. And that's what Kymar was trying to give to May, or to give to Osha. I'm sorry. We see, and we're getting it screwed up, and they're doing that on purpose, which I like.
It's great.
But I agree. I think there's something, my curiosity about Soul, I think for the first time has made me go, he's not the guy I thought he was, which I think there could be two twists, right? It could be that Soul has a much deeper past. And of course that we now see that Kymar was probably rejected by another master, which means that there very well could be actually another master and apprentice out there that's not even Kymar, which I think is awesome. So just hearing about Leslie Headland said that when she saw Manny Jacinto's screen test, she was like, I'm adding a lot more for this guy, because she believed in his character that much. She believed in his portrayal of him. And after seeing all this, I'm like, this dude is quickly arriving at a top villain of the last 5 years in Star Wars for sure.
Dude, he's incredible.
Yeah.
And I know people who don't enjoy this show. I had a discussion with someone close to us the other day who's not enjoying the show and was saying how Manny Jacinto's terrible. And I was like, oh my God, now I know you're just completely in a negativity feedback loop.
Sure.
Because, I mean, he's objectively great. He's just objectively great. Even with some of the dialogue that's a little cagey or a little like, the classic Lucas, like you can write the stuff, but you can't say it. He's like killing it. Like destroying, and even the weird stuff like the popping in and out of the Chimera character, to the Sith or the Stranger or whatever you want to call him. There's like these little like sprinkles of Jason Mendoza and the goof.
Sure.
He's playing the fool, but then he gets back into that dark voice, and even like the no,
sure,
like response. It's got this element of something I can't place, but it's so sinister, and
I think it's
awesome.
It's so sinister, and why is this guy so sexy? My
Yes.
God, this guy like
the muscles.
Is it really? Muscles. Is it just the muscles? My God, the guy took off his shirt. I was like, what the hell's going on here?
Then his pants.
And then he's just waiting around. I was like, you forgot your lightsaber, pal. I guess maybe you didn't. I don't know.
Lightsaber's up. All right. Let's get into some
lightsabers
discussion.
Out.
So, like the three main parts of this episode.
Wait, you didn't ask Nick what he thought.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said at the top your stuff.
I don't remember, but
just think about that bumper.
No, it was good. I liked the episode. Like I said, I thought it was transitional, which maybe is what you're talking about, Adam. I don't know. I like the presentation of the dark side of the Force, not necessarily as evil, but as freedom. Like I think that's pretty interesting. I'll leave it at that for now.
Oh.
Agree. Oh, dude. In the patron chat, Board Game Cantina said, what are the odds that Chimera got that scar from Soul or Vernestra? Love that. I love that. And I'm going to hit it with the old Yoda exclamation marks emoji, because that would be something that make him have exclamation marks. All right. Let's get into this episode a little deeper. just to review, Sol has left Kofar, sends a distress call back to Coruscant that his whole team is dead. May is on the ship with him, disguised as Osha. Vernestra Rowe gets Sol's distress call, assembles a team to go to Kofar, and then they find all the dead Jedi. Well, one of the bugs attacks. Vernestra uses her purple light whip. I hope that's all of it.
Yeah,
because
couldn't wait to hop on here to be like, if what we got was probably at the most 1 second of that, I could handle it.
Yeah,
I could handle that.
It's a good little appetizer because as cool as I think it is, and I think we all think it is, it's just one of those things that from comics that can translate to the screen in a way that a good percentage of people are not going to be down with, even if it is awesome. You know what I mean?
And when I think of someone other than me and Star Wars fans other than me, maybe a High Republic, the High Republic fans saw that for 0.8 seconds and got excited. So good for them.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to Liberty Timmons for the super chat over on YouTube. Thank you.
Heck yeah. Thanks, Liberty.
Okay. And then lastly, Osha wakes up on an unknown planet, like we mentioned. This is the one from the premiere, obviously. She's bandaged. She's got clothes left for her. She finds out that Chimera has brought her there. But let's go back and talk about Sol a little bit before we get into the Chimera part, because to me, that's like really the meat of the episode is all the conversations with Chimera. So Sol, struggling with what happened on Kofar, knows he has to come clean about what happened 16 years ago on Brendok. Like, so distressed that we get this shot, for a 36-minute episode, for generally a show that has about 30-minute episodes, the one shot of him standing there when he has to reset the comms, I guess, right? And he's standing there at the display. I haven't seen a shot hold that long in Star Wars TV. As long as I can remember. I can't think of another one.
Right. Yeah. Right. He's thinking. He's got a
just
lot
on his face.
He's got a lot on his mind.
Maybe the elevator scene in Mando, season 3.
Yeah.
He's just going up. Yeah, maybe. But no,
but in terms of like someone sitting there just thinking,
yeah,
that was a bold choice, and it's for a reason, because Mike, like you said, this is a different dude than we're led to believe he is. The thing, here's the weird thing, and I'll put this to you guys. He doesn't seem to realize that it's May at first, or is he playing dumb to draw her out? I have a couple quotes here that maybe give us some clues, but what do you guys think?
Because I also couldn't really tell that Basil was helping. Because I feel like even when Basil went at May, I was like, is he being cute or is he attacking her? I can't really tell if he was, he's so little and he didn't really look like he was hitting her or anything. But he at one point, I feel like the next scene, Sol stun gunned her. So I was like, is Basil attacking her because she's not Osha? Or
Twins,
is he being,
Basil?
I really did. It was a little confusing.
That's what I got. I think when we've seen Basil, he's been recognizing her scent is different. And he's been tracking since the last episode, basically a different scent on the ship, right? So I think Basil knows the whole time. And then I think obviously Pip being reset. And I think Sol saying, I know how you've cared for that droid. You care for it like a person, you love that droid. When she was like, I reset him, he needed to be reset. Then he was like, I know who you are.
Did she say I reset him or I fixed him?
Or fix whatever she said. I need to reset but I at least saw that Sol recognized that Pip got reset or saw that it was different. The colors are different, right? So for him to be observant about that, I think was that was him letting May know that the gig is up and I'm just toying with you at this point. So I don't know. That's how I interpreted it.
I found myself wondering as I was going back, taking the notes, that it's possible that he either didn't know until that point or he figured it was 50-50, because there is a quote about, and I forgot to write this one down. Something about his vision kind of being clouded by something. What was it?
It was why couldn't I, when they went and met Kymar for the first time, why couldn't I tell
that's right
his intentions?
Yeah. So
well,
at
that's
first
directly related to the helmet then, because towards the end of the episode, are you talking about Mike? Didn't he have that quote last week? Or is it
no. This is when they went to the city and they tried to bust. Remember, they tried to do the sting operation.
Yeah. So the helmet, Kymar was saying that it's kind of like a sensory deprivation tank type of thing. So maybe no force thought, whatever you want to call it, gets out, which is why he was able to exist or sneak up on them in the last episode anyway.
Well, my interpretation was more like when he met him, why didn't he sense the darkness in him at the shop?
Right.
Like without the helmet. So
bad show. It's a bad show.
I think mentioning that, and I forgot what was said, but it was sufficient to me at that point. Like it made it clear that like he's not the Jedi that he should be, to quote another one. Like he's so caught up, his connection to the Force is diminished by his own, ultimately like his own failings and his own history and all of this baggage that he has. It's clouded his vision. Like the dark side clouds everything, and there's like this darkness in him that he hasn't reconciled, that he hasn't like come to terms with yet. So that's my guess, is that's what the sum of all these things being said ultimately is.
I like it.
So there's the first conversation. Here's another moment where I wondered if he was. Oh, this is what I was trying to say before. Did he figure it could be either of them? Didn't quite know, or he knew for sure it was May, but because of the way things went down, he's thinking, okay, maybe I can reach her in some way, and I can like show her. I can kind of confess to her, or I can just show her that we're not the enemy, because when he goes to grab her for a hug, for a split second, it's like an attack. But then she realizes he's bringing her in for a hug, and he says, "You saved us, Osha. You saved me. That man, he corrupted your sister. He used me." And then they kind of get cut off.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, "I'm sorry. It's time to make things right. It's time to face the High Council, to tell them everything." And she says, "Everything?" And that's when they get cut off, actually.
Right.
Ship powers down, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you guys pick up? I mean, was there like a subtle thing where it's almost like there was like a wink and a nod?
It could be, for sure. When she says everything, that's almost like May saying everything, as if she knows more about Soul.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm picking up from that.
And that man, he corrupted your sister. Like if he knows it's her, he's saying it to her at that point.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't the real you, and I'm sorry, and I need to come clean. It's like it's a way to apologize without acknowledging that he knows who she is in a way.
Right.
Then they're interrupted. Whatever. Later, there's the second conversation. She's talking about Osha giving up who she was to be a Jedi. Did it also seem like kind of there was a duality there where she was actually talking about herself?
That's like kind of what I got. That's what I got.
Yeah, like she gave up everything to be whatever Kymar wanted her to be,
right.
And then it went to shit.
Which still like, I think that the interesting like my perspective on it is this like, May's flip in the forest of being like, I can't do this anymore. Like, was that her going for a power grab? Or was that her being like, I don't need this guy anymore to help me, because maybe she's trying to leapfrog over him, talking to right to the master. So I think more of this will come out as we learn more about what happened with Soul, because for her to say everything, I agree with that. It makes it seem like she knows more, like Soul, her asking with curiosity informs Soul that she knows he did something wrong. Osha doesn't feel like that. Osha thinks that she failed. She said it on Oct 2.
Yeah. Number 2.
Right.
Good one. Nailed it.
Yeah. So interesting little comment here from Grarok B in Patreon. Kind of alluding to the fact. So let me go back for a second. So Chimere doubled down that he had been a youngling or Padawan or Jedi, whatever, a long time ago. He like doubled down on it. Mm-hmm. So it was like, dude, how old are you? You know, like how could you be something? How could you be anything for long and you look like you're 30? You know, like, so I think that was very interesting. And then in the Patreon chat, we also know Vernestra also ages differently because she's been around for a couple hundred years at this point. Mm-hmm. So Grarok is kind of alluding to the fact that maybe they've met before, but then also that could be a very Master and Padawan connection there. And Grarok in the Patreon chat says, hence the whip scars. So I wonder if maybe in the next 2 episodes there's a connection between 2 people, Vernestra and Chimere, who have been around for hundreds of years, perhaps.
Oh, dude.
Jedi, Padawan. Maybe Vernestra thought that she killed him with her whip, which means we're getting more whip. Which, because the scar in the back was a little, it didn't look thrashy. Like a lightsaber. Yeah,
it's thrashy, yeah.
So
okay, dude,
that's
you
very
just,
cool.
You just made me think of something. You and Grarok just made me have a really, I don't know, maybe some people would think this is whack, but I think it could be awesome. We'll mention it at the end.
2 lightsaber whips, 1 in each hand.
Double whip. Double indie. All right. Let's talk about Chimere for real now.
Okay.
First thing I want to mention, I had this revelation last week. I don't know why no one thought of this before. Chimere, Qimir. Spell it different. Spell it with a CHI. Sounds like Chimera.
Thrawn's ship. Damn it. I knew it. It's Thrawn the whole time.
But Vader, Sidious, Tyrannus, Maul, all of these dark side names sound like some kind of negative word. There's some negative connotation. In Vader, Insidious, Tyrannosaurus Rex, Maul. Mauling, you don't want to get mauled. Sure. So there it is. And even more to the point of this dude's duality and like the Sith, you know, the classic Sith move of playing, playing it straight in the streets, and then you're Sith in the shadows. From Greek mythology, a chimera is a monstrous fire-breathing hybrid creature typically depicted as a lion with a goat's head protruding from its back and a tail ending with a snake's head. So multiple personalities, multiple heads, multiple faces. There it is. Mm-hmm. Also, I want Chimera's hair.
Something else that I think that we need to bring up, the opening chapters of the Darth Plagueis book. Mm-hmm. It's called Baldemic. It's the name of the planet that I think he lives on.
Balsamic.
It's very similar to that, but it has a vein of cortosis.
Wow.
It's ore, I think is what they call it, the metal. It's like an ore, and it has a vein of cortosis that runs through it.
Dude,
that's what that was. She
in
looks
the
up,
wall.
Yes, she looks up and sees that whole like metallic vein.
And this is what planet?
It's called like Baldem. The patrons are gonna know. It's
Balzac.
In the opening. Yeah, it's in the opening chapter. I think it's Baldemic.
Let's figure this out right now. This is great.
Sure.
Planet.
I think it's BAL. I can't remember. It's been. I mean, I cliff noted that chapter, but that was what I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I remember that because it's obviously they focused on it. Like she looked all the way up, and they like made a point So
Baldemnik is what Physics Buddy Joe says.
Baldemnik.
With an apostrophe kind of separating.
Yep.
Sick. Okay. Baldemnik is the planet. Dude, okay. Dots connected. Sick.
The writers of the show are huge Star Wars fans. I don't care what anybody else, any of these nerds are saying online. This is deep cut old Star Wars lore.
Yes.
They did their research.
That they did. All right, so he's trying to turn Osha to the dark side. And it starts with the skinny dipping. She sneaks up on him, she grabs a lightsaber, and he senses
handsome.
her back there.
He's so handsome.
He's too handsome. It's annoying.
God, must be stopped.
He's in too much shape. Feels good, doesn't it, to hold it in your hand again? You know, she's got the lightsaber. And he just keeps asking her questions. He keeps leading her on. And this is like one of the coolest things about the way this is written. Not only is this method of asking questions a great teaching strategy, but it's a great writing technique and a great writing device. It's like it's always better to ask a question, for characters to ask each other questions than to just monologue and just spit out information, because it's asking the other to engage, and then that exchange brings out things in a much more sort of moment to moment, second to second suspenseful way, and in a way that sounds more genuine. And ultimately, like, you know, you hear about this in like therapy amongst many other things. Like, asking questions is always more important and a better way to approach things than just spitting shit out your mouth. You know, just waiting to talk and just talking.
Mm-hmm.
Says the host of a podcast. But
oh man,
he comes out of the water and she's still standing there with the lightsaber, and he says, "You're wondering if it's honorable to kill me like this." And he gets into all this awesome philosophical stuff about the Force and about the nature of light and dark. He says, "Heat of battle, it's justified, but a few hours later, it's vengeance." Kind of at like,
right.
What?
Mm-hmm.
And then again, he's kind of prodding her and trying to provoke things in her. She says, "Did you kill Sol?" And he said, "No." She says, "Did you kill May?" And he says, "No." Interesting that you ask about him first, though. He taught you the Jedi arts, but he's more to you than that. A special relationship, isn't it? Master and pupil. And like, again, the duality of that. You know, he's talking about her and Sol, but then also alluding to what the two of them could be if she became his pupil. And it's so good. I'm sorry, it's so good.
Right. Yeah, I think the Vernestra call is a great move. I think what's hard about it is, for a lot of people who haven't read the High Republic, don't understand how integral Vernestra is to like where the Jedi are, right? This is comparable. Like Yoda is still Yoda, right? But this is like finding out that, you know, Plo Koon or someone did a horrible thing. Because we look at these characters like Qui-Gon, or we look at it and we're like, you know, they have such a great understanding of the Force. They're such great teachers, but like, we don't see their failures besides when often, you know, they lose, they get killed, something. We tend to see them as almost these perfect entities among Star Wars. So I think that's really smart, because when Vernestra says tip the scales,
yeah,
she knows exactly what's happening. And
yes.
So that I think there's something very interesting. Hymar represents, you know, and then again too, we're going back to what we talked about 2 episodes ago, of saying, if there is a cover up of why Ki-Adi-Mundi has no idea about the Sith, this is the vice president or someone on the high council with this horrible secret that I can totally understand why they might have said. And for Vernestra to go, it's personal, means that she knows that there's something going on here, right?
Yep.
She's messed with this before. So High Republic fans are eating good tonight. That's
one. Ki-Adi-Mundi, he ain't no snitch. 2.
True.
He might not even remember because that brain is so long that imagine like the thoughts
True.
that are just tucked up all the way at the tip.
They got to
He
go
might
up top. They don't come back down. It's
You got to think
gravity,
so hard to pull
right?
them back down.
Right. They're in space. It's gravity. Doesn't work.
DJ Longhead.
Yeah.
Master Long Dome.
Right.
And like when you guys mentioned, she says something like, you speak like a Jedi. And he said, I was a Jedi a long time ago. She said, why haven't I heard of you? And he said it was a really long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So could just be another cover up. We would assume, one of the many. I mean, it could just be this group too. What if it's just this group of a bunch of shady ass people? They're like, it's like a really dark, twisted version of, I don't know, like a Jedi version of It's Always Sunny. Like they're all just pieces of shit. You know what I mean?
It's very possible. It's very possible. I think too, like there's other things that could have happened in the latest video game Jedi Survivor. One of the High Republic villains was like kept in a stasis, basically like a backed, almost like a freezing chamber, but not carbonite. So there's tons of stuff that's already existed in Star Wars that makes this not necessarily has to be reliant on the species, but certainly can make it so that someone's able to stick around for long enough. And I wonder if maybe we might get that.
Yeah. Then there's this mention of her being strong in the Force. She questions it. The way he posed it, at first I didn't quite know what he meant, but then on the second watch it made sense. I'm assuming. Tell me if you guys got the same thing. She says, if you keep me here, soul comes to you. He's found me before. His strength in the Force is very powerful. And Chimera says, you think that's his strength? That's your strength in the Force, Osha. Someone ought to teach you that. Meaning, her strength in the Force is enough that he can feel it to know where she is, right? Is that what he's getting at? Or is there something else that I'm missing?
That's the only thing I could think of.
That tracks
how I
to me.
interpreted it.
Yep.
Okay. Because at first I was kind of like, is she like, but that's got to be the simplest answer, right? And then she talks about without training, it fades. Chimera says, and that's what they told you. The Jedi teach there's only one way to access the Force, and if you don't do it their way, it fades. But there's another way. And we all kind of assumed where he was going with this, dark side. But the way he describes it is yet again another really seductive, enticing, but legit, he makes some good points type of way of explaining the dark side. He says, below the surface of consciousness are powerful emotions: anger, fear, loss, desire. She says that's the path to the dark side. He looks and kind of just, with his eyes and his hands dismisses. He says semantics.
Did you not feel like Soul was experiencing anger, fear, and loss?
Yep.
Like why they kept the camera on him? I mean, he was experiencing all of those things.
Yeah. And then she says, you murdered my friends. He says, I killed Jedi. I killed those who threatened my existence. So this goes back to what he was talking about last episode.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually, like the very beginning, talking about, the Jedi, basically like they think that they like have a monopoly on the Force and who can use it. The Carrie Ann Moss's line in episode 1, we've got not an unauthorized, but what does she say? An unknown Force user or something like that.
Right.
Like it's like you have
unauthorized,
you have to like register your Force powers like in a database, basically. So he then says, she says Yord. He says, a man who threatened to turn you in for a crime you didn't commit. You killed Jecki. Where do you think that was going to go? And this is when he gets into something that, again, talking about doing the research and George's original conception of the Force and the flaws of the Jedi and how someone can be turned to the dark side. He said, where did you think that was going to go? You would have had the same relationship with her that you have with your master. Why do you love people that can only go so far? One-sided relationships, right?
Right.
people who can't go as deep as you can. So because of their dedication to the Jedi teachings, no attachments, no love, blah blah blah. You go back to the Attack of the Clones poster, right? And he makes a great point. Like, this is the whole reason Anakin turned. He wasn't allowed to love this person, and then he just lost his mind. And this extends all the way then to the sequels with Rey and finding a balance. So, again, I thought this shit was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's ultimately, if you put it to some real human, real world, I don't know, verbiage here, it's like, without acknowledging some emotions and like burying them deep, you create other problems. So it's like, if the Jedi are just being like, don't do these things because they're bad, but they're natural emotions, it's pretty hardcore, like, conversation to be having, where it's just like, the Jedi, what we know of the Jedi are good guys, and the more it's peeled back, you're starting to see, for storytelling sake, they can't just be the Avengers, like, they can't just be good guys all the time versus bad guys. For storytelling sake, they're showing the I don't even know if it's the beginning. I know that the Leslie Headland has, kind of, or we have all said that, like, this is the beginning, like the first crack in the order that leads to Phantom Menace and leads to Palpatine.
Right.
But who knows? It could go back a little further. But just showing that the Jedi aren't perfect is one thing, but having that philosophical conversation of not feeling your feelings and being in touch with them. And it's like, well, all that Chimera is saying here is that, like, he has those feelings and he sees it more as freedom, as opposed to the dark side, and it's like, well, we know what happens, and it becomes galactic rule under Palpatine and Vader. We know that doesn't go correctly because people abuse power, but the way it's being posed right now, I think, is really awesome.
Julia in the patron chat asked a good question, and I think I have an answer. She said, how did he know about Yord and him wanting to turn her in? My guess, off the top of my head, is right when she said that, as he was throwing that, as she was throwing that at him, like, you killed this person, you killed this person. She's also got in her subconscious, like he's talking about, all this anger and resentment. She didn't exactly love Yord, right? And it goes back to that what he said at the shore of the pond. Your anger, what does he say? Your thoughts betray you, essentially. Like, your anger, like, in your anger, you're revealing more subconsciously than you realize. So he could have pulled that right out.
Didn't Chimera also meet Yord on the planet when they were going to do the sting operation?
Oh yeah.
So like that. So they were like, we're looking for her. She committed murder, and Chimera's like, no, she didn't. I did.
Yep. Yeah.
So like, it's kind of like the assuredness of the Jedi to be able to, like, just make a call like that. He's like, sure.
Yeah, and if there was any question of what they were specifically thinking about her, he got it all right out of her in that moment of anger, referencing them. And then Osha says to Chimera, I'm not my sister. I'm not that easily corrupted. And he pushes up on her. They're kind of standing at that sort of balcony thing, that opening that, again, looks so much like Octo. And he just basically, like, dares her to kill him. It's like, why are you still here? What are you going to do? You got the lightsaber in your hand, And she says, what is it? Oh, she says, like, that, the Jedi doesn't attack someone who's unarmed. And he says, why do you keep referring to yourself as a Jedi? Why do you still think of yourself as a Jedi? They didn't want you. She's like, that's not true. And it's this, like, awesome Kylo Ren Rey kind of exchange. And she says, I left. And he says, you sure about that? You sure about that's why? And this anger, this pain, that's who you are. The Jedi saw it, and that's why they threw you away. She said, they didn't throw me away. And he said, then why aren't you a Jedi? Why aren't you a Jedi, Osha? Like, he's like pushing her so hard, and it's so good. And then she says, because I failed. She kind of breaks down. He says, I understand I lost everything, but when you lose everything, that's when you're finally free. Ultimate, like, Sith, mic drop, you know, kill your dad, kill your mom.
Too. Yeah. Very Fight Club, I'm pretty sure. I think they just changed a few words. Yeah, I think that what we're seeing here, whether or not Chimere knows that he's doing this or not, I think that he's lighting the fire, the dark side, the doubt in Osha. And then when we find out Soul did something really bad, or the Jedi did something really bad, Osha could just explode with rage, you know?
Yeah.
And she winds up being the little baddie, and maybe May has to save her, which would be a good little twist there.
Dude, I just had a thought. Sorry to go speculating from news stuff, but the article, I think, Mike, that you mentioned, Leslie Headland kind of revealing some things about her motivation with writing. Didn't she say something about there are at least 2 more dark side users or 2 more Sith types, right? Something like that.
Yeah, and also speaking to the Kylo theme.
Yes, so we'll get to that in a moment.
Okay, all right.
But what if the multiple Sith or multiple dark side users, in the end, what if they just both go full dark side, Osha and May? What if it's twins, Basil? What if it's Starkiller style?
Yeah, they kill Chimere, so then there's 2, and they're the 2 of them. Love that.
That would be sick. And then the final like kind of talking point, which leads to some more speculation, which we totally don't do on this podcast. So they're back in the cave, and she says, did you give the same pitch to my sister? And Chimere says, I made a mistake with May. I thought she wanted more than just revenge. And Osha says, what do you want? And Chimere says, the power of 2. So in this story, that's, of course, a reference to Mother Anastaea's teaching about the power of 2, the power of many, and so on. But this feels so much like the Sith rule of 2, which we talked about with that, that episode, that it was very similar. Maybe this was the origin of it in some way. But, Mike, like you said, last week we heard Kylo Ren's theme note for note towards the end of the episode. This got the gears turning on. Of course, this is the first Ren, all this kind of stuff that we've been talking about, that a lot of people have been speculating. So, I don't know. What do we think about this? Because there are some different ways that this can go. He could be a Sith and then, creates the Knights of Ren as kind of an offshoot, or it could just fully be that, and we don't know. What do you guys think? Nick, you have any thoughts? Any speculation, theories?
I don't know. No, I mean, I really don't have. I'm kind of along for the ride here, which is great. No, I don't know. I don't think. All that I could feel with my body is that there's at least 1 more twist, if not 2. So
right.
That's really it. I mean, it's kind of exciting, and I think that from a Lucasfilm standpoint, going this far back in the Star Wars storyline and timeline, I mean, speculating on what might happen is fun based off of previous Star Wars storytelling, but we're in like a different era, and there's not a lot to attach, or there's not a lot of dots to connect to, like, say, The Mandalorian is out or Ahsoka's out, and you connect it to things that exist already. So I don't know. It's kind of just fun to be along for the ride. So I don't necessarily have like a thought on the connection necessarily. There's obvious visual things with the mask and obviously the theme playing to Kylo, which would lead to Knights of Ren. So it'd be cool. It just, the execution of it matters. So hopefully, in the next 2 episodes, if that is the case, that it becomes a Knights of Ren thing and a different sect, which I like. a different sect of kind of dark side users. I'm all for it. It's cool.
Mike, how about you?
I think all in all, the idea of exploring the dark side has been a central theme of why the show got created. I think what a lot of fans actually have asked for, despite them thinking this is a show that is against what they're asking for. But Leslie Hevlin did say that was intentional. She can't speak to why right now, which makes me think like, oh my gosh. It's kind of like admitting you're guilty, but you're not guilty. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, you did it. You did this. You're doing it. You're doing it, right? But I think what's important to remember is that we have seen other versions of dark side users that are not Sith. Balin Skoll, we have looked at other, we have plenty of characters that have not fully had to kind of play within the rules of 2. And I love that personally. I look at Asajj Ventress. I look at all these other characters that have all been just represented the dark side of things. So this is, quite frankly, an exciting theme to explore that I think finally we're getting a focus on it enough that fans have speculated in comment sections for, years about philosophy and all that. So the show is getting better as it goes on. And I think at this point, if you're not interested in the fact that these other fans made this great show about the dark side, I don't know what you're watching at this point.
Here's an interesting thought. Well, first I'll respond to what Nick, you were saying earlier about Chimera potentially being as old as anyone in this story, Vernestra, anybody else that goes back long enough for him to say a really long time ago, whatever. What if he's a changeling? And this is not his natural form. That would be sick, in my opinion.
They exist.
And he could be anyone at that point. He could be anyone. Here's an interesting thing. I was thinking, okay, rule of 2, if they both go full dark side, so they kill Chimera, and they establish the rule of 2, everyone would go through the damn roof with the idea of them, establishing the rule of 2 and not Darth Bane, because that is canon, and they're not going to break that. That has been canonized. But the rule of 2 is preceded by the doctrine of the dyad. And this was something that was only ever, mentioned in the Rise of Skywalker Expanded Edition novel. And there's not much on it. The Wikipedia article is like 3 paragraphs. But what if these two, this Force dyad, potentially, maybe, created by these dark side of the Force using witches, is what sets this whole thing in motion? So, first dyad creates ultimately the rule of 2, which sets the Sith on that path, and then we don't see another dyad until generations later in, a descendant of a Sith and a descendant of, the greatest Jedi ever. I mean, I love all of this. Even if this isn't exactly it, some of these concepts are at work, clearly.
Yeah.
It's some version of it.
There's something in there, and I think what's interesting too is though we don't know the planets, and we're speculating as to what these planets are they not also a dyad enough that these planets can almost you can send the Force through each of them, right? Because we still don't know what the whole in Octo represented, how it got there, but it's
oh, dude.
You know what I mean?
I just got full body goosebumps about the idea of 2 planets being a dyad.
Right.
With islands, with a thread, this vein of cortosis being like a thread, the whole Octo,
cute porgs, ugly porgs.
Oh my god, yeah. I thought they were still cute.
I thought they were like the baby thalasirens when Luke like swigs the green, like where I was like, are they the little ones? Then you go over there and the cows are laying there.
I know this is so trolly of me, but they deserve it. But I would love for this to somehow be connected to The Last Jedi, because that was at the end of everyone complaining. Just make it connect to their least favorite movie.
The most divisive series connecting to the most divisive movie.
Sure. They try to escape. They crash. What's this? And you be like, oh, perfect. It's perfect.
I love it. All right. Let's wrap it up. Like we said at the top, we're going to, in the after show segment for patrons, the bonus segment, going to talk about, well, the question is, who do you think has the coolest looking helmet in Star Wars? Because Mike needs a helmet because he has broken himself by striking the ground with his body.
Right.
He's got staples in his head. Luckily, they weren't across his mouth. Could have been. Could have easily knocked out all your teeth.
Yeah, very easily. Yeah. No, I can't imagine, but I do. I have them. I'm good.
Well, we're glad you have your teeth and you're not dead.
Thank you so much.
Mosh Eisley tickets are on sale. Mosh Eisley San Diego is in mere weeks.
Oh, wow. People are buying tickets every day. We're at that point where it's like every single day we get a ticket count. We're like, sold some more. So we're on our way to selling out San Diego.
Yep.
And then a month later, we have Mosh Eisley Atlanta, the weekend of Dragon Con. That's a Thursday. It's, think of it as a kickoff party for Dragon Con. That's going to be super dope.
Sure.
If you're in Atlanta or anywhere near, or you go to Dragon Con, come hang out with us. It's going to be good times. And that'll do it for this week. Patrons, thanks for being patrons. We'll see you in the after show segment, the bonus segment. And everyone else, until next week, may the Force be with you. In theory, I will play the outro music. If you enjoy Thank the Maker, you can support us by following and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Or you can support us directly at patreon.com/thankthemakerpod, where you can get access to our Discord server, exclusive content, exclusive merch, our recording live stream, and more. Our patrons quite literally make Thank the Maker possible.